Today's video we're going to be working on a Nissan again because we bought one and now we got to fix it because it's always broken because it's a Nissan. So we're going to do a power steering pump here, and you can see right down in there you've got two bolts holding this guy on. One bolt right there, and the other one coming through the passenger wheel well here is right there, and it goes all the way back to the back side there, so we might need to hold that nut. And if your inner wheel well is not out, you might need to remove the inner wheel well to do this job, or at least it makes it easier. As far as hoses, we're just going to take the hose off of the pump side from the reservoir, leave the reservoir in place because it might be okay. And then we got one line that plugs into the power steering pump right here and one that plugs in here. It's a feed and a return line. We'll pop those guys off and this job should be pretty simple. I got the sensor here that I'm going to pop off because I think I've got to take that sensor off to get that high pressure line out. And then this low pressure line is just a little hose clamp. This is a low pressure line right here. The sensor, I'm using a 1/16 size socket. Seems to fit pretty good. I'm sure they make a special tool for it, but that's going to do just fine for us. Whoop, drop that right down into the engine bay. That's great. Blow it off if you dropped yours in the engine bay as well. Check that O-ring, make sure it's in good shape because otherwise you'll leak when you put this thing all back together. And now this might just pop out. Well, I'm sitting up here playing with this, you know, trying to get it to come out, and it's just not gonna budge. And then I go to the new one here from the junkyard and went to the YouTubes and the Googles and all the things. And I think what I'm finding is this banjo fitting is not supposed to separate like this. So we're gonna take this bolt out and slide this out and up, and then we'll just use that same line on this pump, take this one off the new pump. Let me show you what it looks like here through the wheel well. This is leading me to believe that you definitely need to take this inner liner out to do this job. Pop this guy out. He is a 24 millimeter. So you're gonna need some bigger socket sets to do this job. But then, yeah, look, it pops right out. So you didn't even have to take that sensor off if you come in here and do this in the first place. But at any rate, we'll keep trucking along here with these two bolts, pop this old guy out and the low pressure lines and see what we got. You gotta give credit where credit's due. Nissan did something right. On the back of this, you see that little piece that's spinning? That's actually designed to hold the nut in place for you while you pull this bolt out. So you don't have to try to do it with two hands. That's kind of nice. I think there's 100 million threads in this thing. Yeah, that guy does come off. Set him somewhere you're not going to lose him. And then boop. There we go. Bottom one's out. That's a 14 millimeter. Top one's a 12. And you can see this guy's already starting to move. Once we get this bolt out, it should be pretty easy to slide this up and out. Now, I should mention, normally when you buy a new power steering pump, it's not going to come with a pulley. You're going to have to take the pulley off of the one that exists in your vehicle, unless you bought a junker at an auction like mine and somebody took it apart for you. But, you know, rent yourself a pulley puller at the AutoZone, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Let's see if I can get this guy out now. No? Yeah, here we go. Now take a look at this one I pulled out. You can see it looks like maybe it just exploded is the problem. When we go to put the new one in, we're going to want to pay attention to this banjo fitting. We got a couple of copper washers that go on either side of that line. Let me show you what I mean. So you're going to want a copper washer on this side and then one on that side. And they're designed to compress metal against metal and create a seal in here. Used in high pressure applications. If your copper doesn't look like copper anymore, it looks like a shiny silver metal, then you're going to want to replace that bushing or that seal because it's not going to crush effectively. All right, let's slide the new one in now. See if we can do this with holding the phone just kind of like sitting on the air cleaner here. Oh, nope. All right. Got my 12 in. You see the pulley's got these holes in it, makes it easy to get a deep well socket in there. All right, when you go to put this back in, this is called a banjo fitting. It's got the hole there in the middle, and the fluid's got to go through the bolt. So it goes through the hole on either side and then through there. And so when you look at your banjo fitting here, it's got the hole that's going to line up with the bolt, just like that. And you're probably asking yourself, how do I know which way my hole is sitting? Because there are no markings on this bolt. It's almost as if Nissan designed it for you to fail, and they did. But you can overcome Nissan's stupidity by doing this. You get you some paint and you paint along the line of the hole so that when it's vertical like that, you know you're good to go. Why didn't they do that from the factory? Because they hate you. We got our bolts tight, and you're probably wondering what the torque spec is on them. Just tight enough, you know, I don't know. I didn't measure anything on this one. We got our sensor back in right there. You can see that guy. We got our low pressure lines hooked up. And so the way this system works, it feeds the pump through this low pressure line. Then the pump pushes it to the rack and pinion through that high pressure line. And then it comes back to the reservoir here through this low pressure return line. And when you first start these up, you're going to want the wheels off the ground because you're going to have to cycle the pump back and forth, back and forth, back and forth by turning the wheel lock to lock, left to right, a bunch of times, like 30 or 50, or maybe just until your arms get tired or whatever. But a lot is the point. I got to see what kind of fluid we're going to need. Not sure. If I don't have the right fluid, I'm just going to put any old fluid in there and see if I can full send. And I'm not going to lie to you here. It'd be wrong if I did. This belt is a pain in the ass. It's actually maybe the hardest part of this whole job so far. And what I did is I got it around all those pulleys. I'll show you the diagram here. Googled a picture of the diagram for the belt routing because of course Nissan either doesn't put it on the hood or somebody ripped it off out of anger. And so we've got power steering, alternator, this is the tensioner, water pump, got an idler here, a fan pulley right there, and then the AC. So you're probably going to want to Google this, but the belt comes over the top of these three pulleys, down around the alternator, up around the tensioner, around the crankshaft, which I forgot to draw, then back up over the fan pulley around the AC and reconnects. Got it? And so I got it around everything except the alternator, and then I went underneath and I was adjusting the tensioner while I was getting it around the alternator at the very end, and then I had to come back in and get it lined up just perfect on all the different pulleys. I think we're there. So now we're going to fill it with fluid. I found a semi-clean funnel. And I've got some power steering fluid with stop leak. That seems like it's good for most things. And then some transmission fluid. The Dexron 6 variety, which it says is compatible for this vehicle. That's what the internet told me. I don't know. You guys Google stuff and tell me if I'm wrong. Did our first fill of this bottle here, and I think it only took, I don't know, about half a quart. And then it kind of burped down a little bit, so I'm going to fill it again. And then I got the jack underneath the middle of the cross member there with the 2x4. Can you get your eyes in there, see the 2x4? And before we start the car, I'm gonna just move the wheel back and forth. So like I said, just till your arm gets tired, you know. I don't know. Maybe you got more stamina than I do. And come out here and check your fluid level. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Well, battery's dead. Try it again. There we go. All right. One way, the other way. Now I've got the cap off. That's important too, because if you do this with the cap on, then you're not going to get the air bubbles out of the system, which is what you're really trying to do here. You want to make sure you have a full system before you go driving around. Not too bad, but not too good either. Got her topped off. I'm going to go back and do the wheel thing again. Well, I have a leak here. You can tell by all the fluid on the ground. And I'm trying to figure out if it's coming from this banjo fitting or this low pressure line behind it. Well, it was a bad crush washer. That was the problem. No more leak. Stop by the junkyard, see if we can find some of these parts. Nissan over there. Well, I expect to find quite a few Nissans in here actually.